Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Product. Today, episode 10, we are discussing from job to business. We have a special guest with us today, Josh Kasinskas, who's actually our business coach. Now, this is pretty interesting because I didn't even know that there was a such thing as a business coach. So it's pretty interesting what we've learned so far. We're going to get into that, Josh. I'm going to give you a chance here to kind of tell us what a business coach is, the things that we've learned, especially from job to business, how we basically had created a job for ourselves, how we struggled with that. Um, anyway, sit down, listen. This is going to be a good podcast talking about something that a lot of people don't even know exists. So, Josh, let's lead it off, man. What is a business coach? Let's even talk about that. Can we go there?
Yeah.
What is a business coach? Because whenever first time I met you, I'm like, what does that mean? You know,
Yeah.
I think I was crying because I didn't have enough time to do anything else but work. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll let you talk now. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And
Yeah, absolutely.
so, yeah, a business coach. What do we do? And it's one of those. It's not such a direct answer because as business owners, you have to do a lot of things. So our job is to help you guys run great businesses. But when people ask me, so what do you do? I say, do you know people who thought they would start a business because they wanted more time, money, and freedom, and now they find themselves with less time, less freedom, and in a lot of cases, less money. They're missing their kids' birthday parties. They're not getting to do the fun hobbies that they once did, and they feel like their business is crushing them. That is the problem that I work with people like yourselves to solve and help them run great businesses and enjoy their life along the way.
I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that because that is that was the struggle. Like when we started the shop, the whole idea was with the shop was we didn't want to work for anyone anymore. We wanted more time for ourselves. We wanted more time for team roping. We were gonna create a business, and we're gonna get all of that stuff. And we learned pretty quick that it took more time. Finances were even tighter because everything depends on you, like toilet paper for the bathroom. All of these little things. It's like, oh wow, this is all my responsibility now, compared to whenever we work for someone else. And I think that leads us into the very first kind of the title of the podcast, job to business, of how we, because of our ignorance, and I'm going to use that term, it was ignorance of what exactly a business is. Um, Job to business. With the job, we had created something here where we had to get up every morning and we had to show up every day. So when we were sick, when we had other things to do, if no one was here, there was no one to work in the shop.
Right.
Not sure how I'm leading into this, so but I really want to talk about job and a business.
You remember the first book I recommended to you guys?
Yeah, the E-Myth.
E-Myth
E-Myth.
Yeah.
Revisited.
It was like manager, job, no, employee, manager.
Yep.
What are they?
Employee, manager, operator. Gosh, you're putting me on the spot now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to remember all of them. But the one thing that I remember they talked about is this thing called the Entrepreneurial Seizure. You guys remember the Entrepreneurial
Yeah.
Seizure?
Yep.
Where you have this idea or this concept to say, like, I'm working for somebody else and I'm doing all the work and they're just making all the money. So I'm going to go just off and start my own business.
Yep. So if we're discussing, the job to the business, like I just want to talk about the struggles that we face, things that Josh had helped us with, and one of those we've already touched base on was that we created a job for ourselves, and we were the only members of that job that could do the work. So when we were sick or we had other obligations, we couldn't do it. And then what would happen is we would miss a day or 2 days, and then now the orders would get behind, and then now you always felt like you were just constantly playing catch up the entire time, and you never got ahead.
Right.
Burnout.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, like where we were at when you met us. We were in the what did you call it? We were in the operator phase. I mean, we thought we had a business. We were like, hey, look at us, we own this. This is our business. But from the outside looking in, all the struggles we were facing and all of that was because we were in this. I'm gonna let you talk the operator phase. And what did you see whenever you saw this? And I think a lot of people are gonna relate to this. I really do.
Yeah, I saw you had a business,
Right.
but you didn't own the business because you owned the job. So you guys were, and we're working on getting you out of being Chiasson Smoke. But if you guys weren't here, you weren't managing the shop. I remember you doing designs, you were talking to customers, and it was just, you were all over the place trying to hold it all together. And I think this is something every business goes through is, when you start, you don't have the resources, you don't have people, so you have to do it. Like, you don't have any choice but to be the people that you need to be the sales, you need to be the customer service, you have to be the manager, you have to be all these things. But you get to a point at which you hit the ceiling and you reach this capacity of like, okay, I just can't bust through anymore. You can't work any more hours. You can't do any more. And you're just stuck. And I think that's where, when I got engaged with you guys, you were at that point of just, you'd built a great business, you were getting successful, you were figuring things out, but you were kind of at this point where you had to do something different because you didn't have more hours in the day to give.
Exactly. And that's what like we didn't think about. and I hope people listening to this, maybe they're in that situation, because what did we know? We know we needed to market. We needed people to look at our stuff. So no matter what widget someone is building at home and they're starting this business, we know that part, right? And then bam, now the phone starts ringing or the orders start coming in. And that's what happened to us. And we hit exactly where you're at. It's like, I can only work so much.
Right.
And I can only do this amount of work in this period. Well, I guess we can get into at the point of scaling now. It's like, okay, if we want this to grow, I can't do it all, And that's when we had hired help. We were hiring help because when you met us, we had already hired some help.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that gets into hiring help. The
You were
the
spinning
mindset,
plates.
yeah, the mindset of, gosh, that was such a.
It's like stressing you out.
It is a little bit
It's
because
like, oh.
because I think about it and it's like being an employee my entire life. I really, really thought like, dude, this is gonna be so easy. You hire help, you go in there, you give them a list, they accomplish that list. You have your list, you do your list, and at the end of the day, everybody's happy. Now you've doubled your production. You're doing what you're doing, and then now some other person is doing that same amount. But then you don't forget about like the training.
Yep.
That other person has desires as far as goals and what they want to achieve. That other person needs training, and that other person, like, there's a lot to that than just like, hey man, okay.
They need leadership.
They need leadership.
Right.
And if you're not a natural leader, we had no way of doing that.
Yeah. So how do you help owners move from doing everything to truly leading in a company?
Ooh, that was a good question.
Yeah, I think of it almost like the picture in my head is like you're part of an orchestra, right? You're playing a violin, you're playing an instrument, and now you look at like the orchestrator. There's a different word for that, but the people that are the composer, right?
I thought it was a conductor.
Oh, a conductor.
I think that's a train. Maybe it is a conductor.
Oh, is
Composer,
it?
Conductor.
It's a conductor.
So
I think they're on trains too. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't
a different type of conductor.
So you're moving from being a member playing in the orchestra to now conducting the orchestra. And because you think, well, I'm really good at this instrument, I can conduct it. But then you realize there's all these moving pieces, and you quickly realize I've never done this before. Like, I don't know how to tell somebody about that. I only know how to play the violin, or I only know how to weld or fabricate this, and you quickly realize all the things you didn't realize you didn't know. You
And
don't
needed to
know
do.
what you don't know.
Right.
And then so we talk about these different levels of learning, and you don't know what you don't know, and then all of a sudden you get to this point where you know that you don't know. And I think that's where you guys were at was there's a period that entrepreneurial seizure, you don't know what you don't know, so you're like, let's start a business, this is going to be great, we could do all these things, and then you quickly realize, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do this. It could be, so if you come from the field from an operator level, you might not understand financials. You might know how to make a product, but you have no idea how to sell it. You've never managed people before, or you have, but now you're the owner. You're writing the checks. There's just all these other pressures that are different when you've even managed a business. There's a lot of people that move from like a general manager to become the owner, and they think this is going to be an easy transition. They quickly realize it's really different when you are the people at the top.
Right.
We say it's very lonely at the top. Business ownership is very lonely, and that's probably one of the biggest things that we help people with is just understanding what are the things that they don't know to be an effective leader, to be an effective business owner. And that's our job, is to help train and educate you so that you can run your own business. So everybody's got this, they can grow the business to a certain point, and then the business will plateau, or in some cases outpace the owner. Our job is to help educate and train you guys so that you can run and grow and scale the business yourself, that ultimately you as the leaders feel confident and capable to run and grow and scale to the level that you want.
Yeah, and that's we're trying. And that, I guess that's why the term coaching is, because we're turning to you a lot of times with these challenges that we face, and we don't even realize we're going to face these challenges. But you're not you're not the answer guy. I don't call up Josh and say, Josh, I need to solve this problem now. What do I do? One thing about the coaching is just being able to just talk through something with someone else. Even though Miranda and I can talk about it, but having someone like yourself that's you've grown a business, you've scaled the business, and you ended up selling a business, but you have the experience to just sometimes talk it through, right?
It's not questions guy.
He's the questions guy.
Yes.
That's how we
Yeah.
to allow us to say,
oh, we got to look at this and figure it out. He's not going to tell us.
right.
Well, it's like your kids at home, right, doing their homework.
Right.
So they come to you and say, Dad, I don't know how to do this math problem. And we can do it for them, but then are they learning?
Right.
Yeah.
So our job as parents with our kids is to help them through it, but ask questions and give them the confidence to say, you know how to do this. You've done it before. Think through it. And when our kids take the time to think through that math problem and they get it and that light bulb goes off and they go, I can do this. That's what we as coaches do, is you a lot of times have the information, you don't realize it's there. Just like our kids, if they slow down, think it through, they'll get the answer. That's our job, is to ask good questions so that you take the time to think it through, and then you come up with the answer. Because at the end of the day, if I have the answers and I know more about your business than you do, then you're not equipped to run your business to the point you want to take it to. So that's really our job, is to ask good questions and to pull. We believe a lot of the knowledge and the skills needed to grow a business already exist within you. Our job is to pull it out of them. Find out what are those things that you're believing about yourself, your limiting belief systems that sometimes hold you back, because a lot of times, and I think with you guys, most business owners, it's a confidence issue. Of, oh, I don't know this, or I'm not that good at that. And then when I sit down and actually have a conversation with you, it's like, you guys know way more than you think you do. Like, you're selling yourself short.
Maybe so. I'm not too sure about that. Um, but you had said something while you were talking there about, and I wanted to touch is, for me, it wasn't like we can sit here and talk about, okay, here's a profit and loss sheet, here's a product analysis, let's get a, we can do all of this stuff, figure out all these numbers, and then, okay, this is marketing, this is that. But one of the biggest things that I feel like an action coach or the coach did was more on the mental side of all of this stuff, especially the negative attitudes and the positive attitudes. I was not. I come from an all field background, so I mean it's something for us to cuss and scream and holler. I mean that was kind of the culture that I grew up in. From what I understand, it's changed a lot now, but that was the culture. A company man will cuss you out, and that was just normal. That's just what it was. And that mental side of bringing that culture to a business like we were trying to do was hard for me, and it still is for me because sometimes I can be a little rough around the edges. Um, but also trying to maintain this positive attitude and be a little more, what's the word? Help me out here, Miranda.
I don't know.
When someone like sensitive to someone else's feelings,
Empathy.
the
Empathetic.
empathy to someone else that
Sympathy.
has things going on or has other things happening, and also trying to make them feel like they're part of, like this is Chiasson Smoke, or whatever business it may be. But I'm bringing you in because I want you to be a part of this, not just another number that's gonna do these tasks and then go about your way. So that was really the mental side of it has really been a thing for me.
Yeah, the mental is huge. I think I've shared the formula with you guys many times. The be times do equals have. At the end of the day, you start a business because you want to have more time, money, and freedom. The doing is we're going to make rocket stoves and fire pits and we're going to weld the things. But the formula is be times do equals have. So it's who do I need to be as an owner, Jason and Miranda, to lead this business effectively, to be a good boss, to be a good parent, with all these things. At the end of the day, to have what you want to have, you have to do both of those things. And I think you're right. Like, the thoughts and the mindsets are critical. There's something we talk about called the TEAR methodology, which is, at the end we think about results. And at the end of the day, we want these results. But this concept of TEAR is your thoughts dictate your emotions dictate your actions, and then your actions determine the results. So if at the end of the day you want positive results and you want to grow your business to this, but you have negative thoughts, then your emotions are going to be determined by your negative thoughts. Your actions are going to be off of your negative emotions, and then the results are not going to be what you want to have. So to have the results, and that I think as coaching, what we do, yeah, we're in the day-to-day on the business and talking about people and P&L and how do we grow sales and all of that, but we have to peel it back to the thoughts. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those thoughts are determined by how we were raised. Could be, myself included. Like, if you come from a background of not having money, you can run your business like, tripping over dollars to pick up pennies, because you're like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, and you micromanage all the things, and you're missing the big opportunities in front of you. So you really have to peel it back to like your thoughts and your mindset. And if you're in this negative rut, it's gonna determine everything.
And I've seen it. Like I've seen it through friends that have tried started businesses, and I didn't quite know at the time, but when I look back on things now, after working with you on even past experiences, past businesses Miranda and I have put together, it all, like the P&L and the all of that stuff is all like I call them tasks now. Yep. It's just the numbers are the numbers. Your sales are your sales. Can you increase those sales? Well, what's your market? Like, those are all things that are like these solvable things. But the mental side to all of this, on how you react to certain situations and how you handle certain situations, will determine a lot of the results that you get.
Right.
So that
Your entire day.
it's very interesting, and I promise you, most people that were where we were, that go into the business, to start this, that's the last part they're thinking about. I really do.
Right.
Because I still struggle with it to this day. It's like, well, I mean, the positive attitude will matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's hard because you can't quantify it. It's like culture and thoughts and all these sort of ambiguous, and what is it, and you're trying to pull it down, and it's hard to quantify until you lose half your staff, or until things happen, and then you don't see it. Like in the moment, you can see sales are down for a day. With the thoughts and attitudes and culture, you don't see it like instantly, so it's hard to really focus on it. But there very much is a tangible, like, financial impact on all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think of like professional athletes, for example, right? They want to win the Super Bowl, but imagine if their thoughts are, they're thinking like, don't get hurt, or don't screw up. Like, if that's their mindset, what are the chances of them actually making it to the Super Bowl or to the NBA Finals if they have those negative attitudes? So as business owners, if your goal is to grow this into whatever someone's dream is, like, you got to own those thoughts each and every day, because that will. I remember playing basketball as a kid. I airballed, and my older brother's friends like laughed at me, and I just remember thinking, like, as I'm at the free throw line, just hit the rim. Just hit the rim. Like, I wasn't even trying to make it anymore. I just wanted to hit the rim to not be humiliated. But how often do we do that in the business world? Like, that's not a positive thought. That's not a winner mentality. So we have to figure out where those negative thoughts could be about money, could be about people. A lot of times it's about ourselves and what we believe about ourselves to be true, and to realize that you are capable of great things.
Yeah. And it's funny. Miranda and I were team ropers. We love team roping, and we would. I know now, looking back, a lot of our issues was my mental negative attitude.
100%.
And we would get around champions, like guys that were winners, guys that were there, and I swear they could go out there and miss 10 in a row, and when they were done, they were gonna still be happy. And like, oh yeah, I need to make sure I get that left horn covered, or but there was a positive attitude. And then the next day they would win the roping, even though I feel like I practiced better than they did, and but even though I was just negative afterwards, like, oh, my horse isn't doing this, and just this negative attitude of excuses, I guess would be the word. But it's such a huge impact in everyday life. It's crazy that we're sitting here, and that's what it is. It's really, it's like a foo stuff. Like oh, it's your attitude. It's like whatever, but it really is. It really
I
is.
think one of the you had made a chart for us that has the BED and then the big black
the point
dot.
of power.
The point of power. That's kind of what he's talking about. Explain the point of power.
Yeah, so the point of power is, so if you picture a dot in the middle, and maybe you guys can throw it up on the podcast, but you throw the dot, and then above it is the letters OAR, and below is BED. So, or if you think of it of an oar, it's used for paddling, it's used for steering, to getting through challenges. A bed, if you're laying in it, you're not getting anything done. So above the point, OAR is ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So getting to the point where it's, yeah, I own that. I messed up, or I made this decision, and this was the results. Below the point is blame, excuse, and denial. And we always say, like, if you are at the point where you're living in blame, excuse, denial, it could be the economic state, could be, hey, I'm in a landscape business and the weather sucks. Could be just, you're unwilling to see that there's a problem, you're in denial. Like, think about what you're going to get done.
Mhm.
If somebody's saying, "Oh, I'm a landscape business and it hasn't snowed all winter, so I'm just going to blame the weather." Well, you could sit in that negative mind space, or you could say, "Well, okay, maybe this opens up an opportunity for something different. I'm going to own that that's the business I'm in. I'm going to take responsibility for it." And then you determine, do I want to change those actions or not? Because we see that a lot is people are blaming their people,
Mhm.
It's easy.
the economy,
Yeah.
and they're just sitting there stuck in this negative
Mhm.
rut. And I think
No,
it's
we
easy
do
to
it.
see with other people, but sometimes we don't even see it in ourselves.
Right. We
No.
have that poster in the shops,
Yeah, because
hanging on the wall.
I mean, I was really bad for that too, because it was like, what? Why did you mess this up? You know, and it, not once did I look back and say, "Oh, because as the owner, maybe I didn't have the right tool for that job. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't offer a great training. You know, did they follow the SOP that we made on that?
Or
You
do we
know, or
not
was it
have
just
an SOP?
bad instruction? So, Josh, now let's talk a little bit about reaching the point where Miranda and I have gotten. Okay, it was mom and pop. We were doing our thing. We got overwhelmed. Didn't quite know what to do. We hired people. We hired people um, wrong, I guess, because we weren't leaders, or I wasn't a leader. And one of the things you said, oh, you are a leader. You just had to learn it, or we just have to learn it. But what's so interesting to me is I have gone from um, the guy doing the work, and Miranda, doing the work, and that made me feel part of the business, right? Like I'm this is that business. Then we've had to hire help, train those people, try to lead those people, help them become successful in whatever path that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the mental breakdown of when I'm at my computer all day, and I'm realizing, holy cow, it's 5:30, and I've been at my computer all day, either paying bills, answering emails, all of that stuff. And then I walk in the shop, I feel like, man, I'm not part of the shop anymore. Or, it's such a weird role that we take on now. Um, how do you help owners, like, understanding that they can't do everything, even though we want to do everything?
Right.
So how do you help owners kind of deal with that? And what are some advice, things that you've told us, just to make people understand, just because you're not actually building the widget anymore, or the hands-on of the thing, um, it's still your business. It's still your baby. You're just taking a different role now.
Right.
So
Yeah, one of the things I tell everyone is, I ask, what industry are you in? And you're in the fabricated metal manufacturing industry, right? And I say, no, you're in the business of people. And that's the biggest thing for people to understand is you as a business owner, if you truly want to run a business, and our definition of business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without the owner. So that is where we say you move from a job to a true business, is something that has life and grows and operates without the two of you. So that means if you guys disappeared for a week, for a month, ideally for a year and beyond, this thing not only runs, but grows without you. And in order for to do that, you have to get the business to run and operate without the owner. And a lot of times, the owners are their own biggest obstacle. We get addicted to the stress of things. It's just natural because we had to do it. And then you get to the point where now you have people. And if I think with machines, right, it's easy to see like, oh, we can run at this capacity because we know I can put this in and it can bend this many an hour. Well, people are no different. But sometimes, like, we have people standing there ready to do things, but then, oh, I'll just do it for them.
Mhm.
And or they don't know how to do it as good as I do. So I'm just going to do it. Or if they have a question, rather than help and educate them, I'm just going to lean in and
Just
bend the
do it.
part for them.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of times the biggest thing is really, the people that work for you, they want to be successful. They want to work hard for you. And sometimes when we lean in or we're too involved and we don't give people the rope. I mean, I think if we think about that in our own life, right? Like if our parents like, God, just like let us do it. If they're constantly like in our business, you're not giving them the opportunity to thrive. So I think that's a big one. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
No.
to build train the people, to build systems so that people know what they're supposed to be doing it, when they're supposed to be doing it, how they're supposed to be doing it, and then step back and let it run, and to shift from that like hourly like do the task mindset to train the work and then observe.
That's Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us was, for me, I'm speaking for you, but for me, it was, I was doing all the work. I was doing it all. And when I started throwing some of that or giving some of that responsibility to other people, I started to feel like disconnected with the business. And I would feel like this, and then, we do social media.
Yep.
Well, I would do a social media video sometimes, and I hadn't even been in the shop that day. I had been on jobs. I had done, doing bids or something. But yet I would make a video of being in the shop, and I would get almost this imposter syndrome. Like, wait, I'm not in the shop doing the work every day like we used to. What started the business, but I think that's why this podcast is so important, because like people need to be aware of this. People that are starting their own business, like, I wish I'd have known it sooner, even before we got to a point where we could say, okay, let's hire some help. There are so many things we could have done differently, especially on the mental side of things. It was just the way that we handled things earlier. And I think it would have pushed us a little bit further, faster, in my opinion.
But it's so hard. We always say it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle, and that's the things we're not. Even running my own business back when I was in your shoes, like there was things I just didn't see or I didn't recognize, where as a coach I can step back. I'm not emotionally invested in the people like you guys are. I'm not. I don't have the, oh my gosh, we need to maintain these sales. So I'm not, you pull the emotion out of it and you just start to look at what's happening, and you can see that picture pretty clear. And when you're so invested in the day-to-day, it's hard to see that, or you get confused between being busy and being effective.
Yep.
I remember after we'd sold our business, I spent a year kind of in the day-to-day, and then I spent a year outside of that looking at strategic growth, and I wasn't in the day-to-day operations for the first time in 16 years. And I remember thinking, our business moves really dang slow, and everybody thinks they're being really effective, but we're being really busy. You started to realize, like, we said we were going to do something, and then a month, 2 months would go by, and like, oh my gosh, we haven't done anything. But when you're so busy in the chaos of the day-to-day operations, you don't realize, like, I haven't done a thing to actually move my business forward.
And that's
in the
where
last week.
And that's where we fell. We weren't moving the business forward. We were just addicted to the chaos of just like it. We felt really busy but we were just doing the task, and yeah, exactly what you said. I mean, that's where we were at, and it was getting to the point of, okay, let's step back. Let's realize that we're trying to build a business and to grow a business. We have to start letting other people do it. And then that leads into, we speak of leadership and helping these other ones, but then there's also people that don't fit the team. And that's a whole other side, because when you work for someone and someone else maybe isn't up to par, it's not your responsibility. You can say like, I don't like working with this person or it doesn't fit. But when someone is part of your team and they don't fit the culture, if everyone is happy, enjoying, and then someone comes in with, I don't like this or this is this and that, it changes the whole dynamic,
Absolutely.
ruins it. And one thing I've learned that I will take a good attitude and a willing attitude over skilled.
Yep.
Skilled, I'm more than willing to help someone and let them help us if they have a good attitude compared to someone that's gonna have a crappy attitude, even though they have a amazing skill. But if they're gonna start throwing tools around the shop, I don't need you here. So that's a whole other side of the business that's
It's a big part of it.
hard. I think we should talk a little bit about work-life balance
Okay.
because I don't. This is where you and I don't, because I work 7 days a week. Like I work every day, all day. When we go somewhere, we're still working. My managers of my team, they need to be available. If they can't be available, then they're not managers. So work-life balance has not been something I've been able to really turn off because I always feel like I'm working. And what is your take on the work-life balance thing? And then we'll let Josh just wrap it up. Just give us your spiel, even though I don't agree with it. You can tell us.
Still working on it.
I think, at the stage we're at in our business, it's like we're always doing something. Even if it's a phone call to someone that may want to do business in the future on a Sunday, and he wants to talk on a Sunday, we're talking. Yep. Miranda, what's your thoughts on work-life balance? And then,
well, I wish we had more at-home life, but I understand, like, we really are in the position in our business where we need to be pushing hard and innovating and constantly thinking about it. Doesn't necessarily mean I agree with it all the time, 24/7. I think there could be some things that could be changed organizational wise, but I'm all for the working all the time thing. But yeah, Josh is he's still working on this, but
Chipping away.
yeah.
and not to cut you off or Josh off, but I also want to touch base about that term right there, working. Where I came, the guy sitting at the desk doesn't work, And I remember our hard times we would give our old supervisors, because they weren't out in the field with us, and if they weren't out there digging ditches, they weren't. Why they get paid more money than us? You know what? Like that was our attitude, man.
That was before the entrepreneurial seizure.
Yeah.
Now being in this position now, and then realizing like the stuff we were doing was the easy stuff,
Right.
the fun stuff. Like Tom, for example, in that shop, when he's in the shop and he's welding and doing all these stuff, it's like, man, that's the fun stuff. That's the stuff I enjoy doing. That's what started this whole business. And I'll catch myself on this computer all day. And that was one of the issues that was so hard for me to get over. Is like, if I'm sitting at a desk all day, then I'm not working, and nobody's going to respect me, because mentally that's how I treated my supervisors when I worked. They weren't doing the work. They weren't doing what we were doing.
So work-life balance, also heard it called work-life integration. Because are you balancing or are you integrating? Like, how does it never really shuts off. And I don't think we disagree as much as you think we do, because I get it. I've been there. You're at a stage where you have to do it, especially startup businesses that don't have anyone else. It's them. And you're getting to the point where you're now building a team, you're putting in systems. So it's one of those things. I heard a popular business influencer said, building wealth and success, the key is like put your quality of life on hold for 10 years. And that's something, like, while I agree with the business fundamentals that they preach, that is one of the things I'm kind of like, at the end of the day, we believe your business should give you more life. Like, that's why you set out to do it, was for more time, money, and freedom. And I always ask people, like, how many of you have more time, money, and freedom? Do you have 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3? Almost no one has all 3. Even if they have more money, they don't have time or freedom to use. They have all the toys, but they have no time to use the toys. And, so for me, and I had my own, wake up call in life, because I was a workaholic. I worked all the time, never shut it down. And, realizing the effect that had on my wife, on my kids, and I missed a lot of valuable time. And, it's this constant balance. Like, my wife and I would always have these conversations that, like, if I don't do this, like, we lose revenue, or we lose an employee, or something important. So it's that give and take of, like, yes, I have to do that, and her having the grace to say, like, yeah, it's okay that you do it. But there are very much times that I didn't need to be working, that I was, because I was addicted to it, because I couldn't shut it down. For me, like, back to the earlier conversation on, like, thoughts determining your emotions, determining your actions, determining the results. I am by nature, pretty insecure person. So it's this fear of failure that, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose it all, or I'm not going to. So that I'm constantly working because I'm trying to hold it together. And if I don't do this, like, if you're not always building, it's going to all fall apart. And so quickly realizing, like, yeah, like, when you start a business, you have to do more. Like, to say you don't have to put in long hours, it'd be ridiculous. But you get to these stages where now you have a team, we're financially stable, we're putting in systems, we're doing all these things. Your job should be to, educate the team, to lead the team, and then the team to manage the systems to run the business. And you to now start getting some of that time and freedom back. Because at the end of the day, that formula for success is B times do equals have. At the end of the day, you want to team rope, and you want to do it with your kids, and you want to do all these things. So, it's just one of the things I see is people put their families on hold, their life on hold for so long. It's like, if you do that and now you're 80 years old and you got all the money and your kids are gone out of the house and your body's physically not capable of doing it. So I'm a firm believer. It's like, build and scale at a rate that you can enjoy the journey along the way. Because, yeah, you can say, I'm going to just go hard. But if you can't enjoy it, what's the point? At the end of the day, like, when you're laying on your deathbed, are you going to be thinking, like, oh man, I wish I would have scaled, an extra this, or I wish I would have made. No, you're going to think about all the things in life that you didn't do. And so that's one of the things.
Yeah.
So when I first met you guys, you were working a ridiculous amount of hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, we got to change that, because, one, it's not good for a relationship, but also, like, physically, like,
Yep.
I've had a mental breakdown, and I know a lot of other people in business that have, because we think we get addicted to stress, and we think it's okay, and we think that we operate at this level, and we don't even realize, like, we're a ticking time bomb.
100%.
I've heard people say, like, men are like trucks. We do better under a heavy load. Just like our vehicles, if you tow over the capacity or you're in the red line all the time,
Yeah.
the truck's going to break down.
Right.
And so that's a lot of it too, is just learning to get out of that stress and to enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you're right. Maybe we don't disagree as much as I thought, but there are times, and this is something that I struggle with. Is, I mean, you said everything correctly. I feel like if I don't do, it's gonna fall apart. On the weekends or we're with the kids, it's like, man, it's just, I could solve this problem pretty easy, like on the phone, or even our social media. Like, I had made a commitment years ago to, like, I'm gonna post every day. I'm not gonna miss a day. So that's something that we're trying to get better about, and putting systems into place of having a schedule and having content scheduled out. Same thing in the shop of like having a system of how things are made and just to improve everything. Just
Yeah. I would say the systems is like we're still in that process now. And I think forever we just didn't think it was a big deal. You know, like you hired somebody on and like this is how you build this. Like here you go. And then it just if that person would leave or went on vacation, then it's like nothing got done. So it's like having all these little systems, even the littlest of like taking trash out or something or turning on the laser machine, like important things should all be done and be listed out there so anybody can do it if we needed them to, and stuff doesn't just fall apart.
Right.
And I really feel like our team now is understanding like why the systems are so important, and they're developing the systems that we've trained them or led them to do, and getting all that in place is bigger than what we thought.
well, when it comes to leadership, definitely what I've noticed is backing off, telling them, explaining to them what we're all trying to accomplish in the end. So there's this goal, and then they're able to develop the systems.
Right.
And I tell I tell them all the time. It's like, man, whatever makes it the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you listening, I used to be the guy who was like suck it up, buttercup, work hard. You know, sweat never hurt anybody. And now when I'm working with the team, it's kind of like, guys, what would make this the easiest job ever? Well, if we had something that actually lifted it and did this, you know, that would save a lot of our
Time, yeah.
lot of time. Or okay, what would do that? You know, and then we'll make our own jigs, we'll make our own stuff, and it's just, I want people to enjoy coming to work, but I think that leads into the next thing of a lot of this is like the personal growth, getting into personal growth and just becoming a better person in general. Because in the beginning, it definitely, creating this business, the job, whenever it was the job and we thought it was a business, to what it is now with systems and a team and processes and all of this. When I was at that point, that person I was at that point would not be the greatest fit to where we're at right now. It would cause failures. I would say going back to when it was just you and me in that shop. Like it was. I really had my old job mentality. Not that my old job was, but it was just the nature of the beast. You know, it was. You know, I would, if someone couldn't handle it, you know, it wasn't about trying to help them grow or help them improve. It was like, well, you ain't as good as me, you know, get out of here. And it doesn't work. But we also got to touch base on sometimes people aren't a fit for your culture.
For sure.
And if they're not a fit, boy, we've learned that recently of, wow, there's a huge improvement of when you get rid of the, you know, stuff that's not working.
Yeah.
Even though you might think it is at the time, and then you realize pretty quick.
We always say be slow to hire,
Yeah.
fast to fire.
Fast to fire.
And really making sure, you know, and that's where, and I think you guys are growing a ton on your journey of like, so it's a business and we make these things, but it's bigger than that. It's the culture of who we are, what are our values, like what are we pushing to, and finding people and like culture.
Yep.
Like you two are not like, oh, I'm Jason and Miranda, I'm CEO and president of this business, you can't come talk to me. You know, you're family orientated, like communicative. If somebody has an idea, everyone has, you know, the ability to bring that to the table, and finding people that fit within that culture. So that's really important, is to like define is who are we and what do we want this business to be, because now it was just the two of you. You don't need to manage the culture, but now you're bringing in new people that may come from a bigger company where climbing the corporate ladder was a thing, or it's like, let's make myself look great and push other people down. So it's really important to identify as like the value systems, and then as you're interviewing, like, do they fit or do they not, and being really slow to like find that out, and not just try to fill a seat, but do they fit the culture? And then, leading effectively. And if they don't, you're a good leader. They have the right systems, they have the right tools, like everything is in place. That's taking that ownership to first reflect on ourselves and say, okay, they're not doing the work well, or they have a bad attitude. Like, is it on me? Is it on my leadership? Sometimes it is. And when it's not, then it's being quick to say, hey, this isn't a good cultural fit, and being swift to make those decisions, because it's like a cancer in the body. You leave it there long enough, it spreads, and it can deteriorate a culture really fast.
It's funny he uses that analogy because I feel like Chiasson Smoke, our business, and I have a feeling a lot of people getting into this, it feels like a living, breathing thing. Like, Chiasson Smoke isn't like Jason and Miranda building stuff anymore. It's Chiasson Smoke is like this living, breathing thing.
Organism.
That is, is providing a living for 15 families in our area. We're doing it like it's its own thing.
Yep.
And we're leading it now and learning how to lead it. But I just thought it pretty interesting that he said that. Josh, there's so much to talk about. We could probably sit here all day. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about it. But the whole point of this is I'm hoping that people that are starting a business, just like Miranda and I did, we had no money. The only money we had to start up was the money that we saved in preparation, People that are just getting into something, they want to do something, to dig a little bit deeper into the business side of things. Even a business coach, the mental side of it, the culture. It's really easy. What brings us all to it is, for us, it was building something, and I think for most people, it's either a skill they have or a service they're willing to offer. That's what drives them. That's what brings them to the table. And then it's all the others. Like, this, it's just such a small little dot, and then it's all the other stuff and all the other hats that you have to wear, and bringing people just to be aware of that and know that there are options out there to get the answers that you need. But before we end it all, since we've been working with you, you also you tell us to read a lot of books, and successful people that have been successful, and they kind of write a book about it and tell it. Is there a book? If there was one book,
or several,
or whatever,
just list all of them.
Okay.
Well, the one book that really Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time.
Yep, Buy Back Your Time is.
We know that book.
That's a great one.
Well, that'll really get you thinking differently. Like,
right.
Man, he's so right about that. But
yeah, that's you have to be willing to say, I don't know it all. That's one of the things we look for, is like, if we have a know-it-all mentality, then we've stopped learning.
Right.
And we have to be in the ask a better question, or what don't I know? And so whether that's through hiring a coach to poke and prod and ask the questions, but also just, personal development is, you can't outgrow if you stop growing, the business stops growing. So you have to be in that like continuous improvement mindset to say, like, because it does. It's like the moment you stop growing, your business stops growing, or it outgrows you, and then the culture starts to erode and all those things. So you have to, like, great leaders are always investing in themselves. They're saying, what don't I know? Who can I surround myself? Find yourself being the dumbest person in the room as often as you can.
Well, you bring that up, and I'm just finding myself wanting to be in that situation. Before I didn't, because it belittled me. Like, no, I'm bigger than that. But that was pride issues.
Right.
That was, I don't know what it was. That's probably there's probably a psychiatrist or
That's
somebody
the
that could.
identity
Yeah,
iceberg
that's.
we talk about.
Oh,
But a
yeah.
lot of the guys that I've worked with my entire life were like that,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why. But man, being vulnerable to put yourself in a situation where you're the dumbest guy in the room, and I tell you, we've done it even with personal things like, oh wow, these are very successful people. Wow, and you talk to these people. Successful people talk different, by the way. Like I don't like when you get into a room, they talk. There seem to always be positive, kind of like champions,
Yep.
champions at a rodeo. They're just always, and successful people do that, and we're putting ourselves in that situation now, and it's tough, man. It is. It really
We're
is.
reading a lot more books than we ever have.
Reading
Yeah. So your
books?
question
let's
on
get to the
books.
question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about starting a business or you've recently started a business, the book is called The E-Myth Revisited. I think that was the first one I had you guys read, and they talk about this entrepreneurial
Yep.
seizure and the different stages of building a business, and when you reach adolescence and the business is running, but then all of a sudden your people start screwing up, and they talk about delegation versus abdication. Delegations where you tell someone what you want to be done, you give them the responsibilities, but you still own the outcome.
Yep.
Abdication is like, you know what, I don't care, just go do it, and then you find out they're doing it all wrong, but you relinquish the responsibility to them. That's an amazing book. I'd recommend for any business owner. So that's a must read. Probably one of my favorites, and I think you guys like it too, is Buy Back Your Time
Yeah.
by Dan Martell. And that is really this shifting of the mindset from being an operator to an owner.
Mm-hmm.
Of, if you're used to doing $20 an hour work or $40 an hour work, you're in this like, I do this and I get this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really shifting to say you are the most valuable person in the business. Where are you spending your time and energy? Because if you're out doing $20 an hour work, who's doing the stuff that's going to move the business 100,000 and a million? A lot of times the biggest ideas or the biggest things come from not sitting there working. It's you're out for a walk in the woods and you have this aha moment and you have this product innovation idea, or you have this whatever the thing is, but that's where you're shifting your mindset from an operator time-based mindset to I need to be focusing my time and energy on what really truly moves the business forward. So Buy Back Your Time is phenomenal. Leadership book, I would say Leaders Eat Last. It's a really great one. Or Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Oh yeah, he likes that one.
On how to inspire. A book I just recommended to you guys last week, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
Yep.
It's an interesting concept, but it's this. A lot of times we get so consumed or we get held back by what other people think, and it's this concept of truly just saying, for you guys, like social media comments or, we know what's in our heart, and like I know I care about people. I know I don't mean whatever they think when you feel misunderstood.
Oh, right.
And you get so like bogged down by this stuff. And the whole concept is just like, let them think that. I'm not going to get bogged down by what other people think. That kind of goes back to that whole mindset of champion of.
And that's the easiest one, how outside influence can really get you into that mindset of, like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. What am I doing? Or
Yeah.
Especially being on social media like we are. I mean,
I will be getting him to read that book. I just gotta figure out when.
it's to let
We gotta go on a road trip.
let them and the whole idea. You speak of culture and we speak of innovation and the things that we build are things that anyone can build, right? But yeah, we're taking it, and because of our culture and because of the brand and because of who we are, we're able to show it to a lot of people. And I think it's a great example of how whatever the widget may be, for us it's fire pits and rocket stoves and smokers, which is a huge competitive. It's huge.
Yep.
Like every little welding shop does it. But the mindset and us being able to somewhat share that and share that story, and people are able to see that, oh wow, they really do enjoy cooking on their rocket stoves, and
Mm-hmm.
it all matters, and it always, that word mindset keeps coming up.
It's huge.
It's not like how good of a welder you are, which is an important skill,
Right.
but boy, it's not the driver of the business. It's not the
No.
heart of it. I'll get off on tangents here. Like I said, Josh, we can
And,
talk all day.
that's the Simon Sinek. People buy why you do, not what you do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he talks about, businesses that really focused on the what. We build rocket stoves, we build smokers, and you guys, I think, naturally did it. Like, you, even before you read the book, it's just how you're wired, which is amazing, and I think has led to your growth and success. Is people buy why you do, not what you do.
Yeah.
So they're buying the culture of Chiasson smoke. The products are good, but at the end of the day, like you said, anybody can weld a rocket stove, maybe even a better rocket stove, but
Right.
it's this feeling like they're part of something
And we
bigger.
we really want that feeling. Like when someone sends us pictures of them cooking on the rocket stove on the weekend, like it's an impact. It's
Yeah.
like they're part. Yeah,
Part
like
of it.
they're part of it. Yeah, 100%. All right, we talked about some books. Y'all go out and read some books. We are not sponsored by any books either, so don't. These are true blue good books that I think
Some are
anyone.
blue. Yeah. Buy back your time's blue.
Yeah, what would be the word for that? These are good books.
These are
Anyone
great
should read.
books.
But we would like to thank our main sponsor, and that's Chiasson Smoke out of Blue River, Wisconsin.
Soon to be Boscobel.
Soon to be Boscobel, yeah. Well, Josh, thank you again for being here and sharing it, man. I know there's so much more we could touch on, but if you get an opportunity, check out Buji Action Coaching.
Yep.
Maybe you're in a position where you would like to speak to an action coach for your business, and definitely try that out. Miranda, you got anything you'd like to add to wrap it up here?
I'm sorry I've been so silent on this, but you guys put on a great episode today. I think it's pretty educational.
I hope so. I hope someone learned. Like every time we do one of these, I hope someone
I
picks
just
up a
was
little
glad
bit.
I was here. I
Yeah.
love this. No,
Good
but
deal.
it's been great working with Josh. He comes, every week. We have meetings, Zooms, whatever we need to do to get what we need to talk about across. So we really appreciate you in our business.
Thank you, guys. I know it's, I think it's one of those things that, you mentioned coming in and telling you how to do all these things, and like you probably felt like there's all these things you didn't know that you needed to know. And I hope what you guys have realized, and the point I like to convey to everyone, is the difference between success and failure is like such a thin margin. Like it's not this flashy, sexy, like crazy thing. It's doing the little things, the boring things super well.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's not like you have
Fundamental.
all the ingredients like you do. It's just pulling them out of you, one, getting the mindset right, building the systems, developing the team. It's not like, nothing against a lot of these influencers in the world today, but it's not some magic formula that only certain people have. It's
No, we're living
the
proof of that.
fundamentals,
Yeah.
doing them every day really well, managing your time, managing your money, leading well, having a positive mindset.
Yep.
And before you know it, like I think you guys look back at where you were a year ago,
Absolutely.
and sometimes you probably don't even see it. Like I see it because it's like, wow, night and day difference
Right.
to when I met you guys. And that's not all because of me. It's a lot. It's you guys. You're doing it. I'm just hopefully guiding you and asking you the questions to provoke the thoughts to say, yeah, we need to do better at this, or we need to focus on this. But it's not some magic formula. It's successful people do boring things really, really well.
No, I mean we are. There was no. We didn't come from money, or this was money that we saved up from working. We had good jobs, but we were working for someone else, and I think one of the things, and actually working with other people, seeing them in their business and seeing the struggles, and noticing they're not doing the basics.
Right.
They're not. They're taking any sort of profit that they get, it's immediately they're spending it on other things.
I forgot that book, Profit First. Keep going. Profit First is a good one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They were spending.
We
their
were
profit.
actually wrapping it up, and here we go. See, this is what I'm saying. We could talk all day. And I've seen where they just didn't do they weren't consistent on the basic stuff, but it's the stuff that's boring.
Yep.
It's waking up early every day and getting and doing work.
Yep.
Yeah, some of your best work's done before 6 a.m.
Before the kids get on the bus, or before people start showing up. Sometimes even on a creative side, on the social media side, or responding to an email. But it's, I guess what I'm saying is I agree. It's not like this, oh, you have to be this special thing
Right.
for it to work. It's just some of that stuff that you have to do in the beginning is not very fun, and it's easy to just say, I ain't doing that no more. Especially if you're still working a full-time job.
Yeah.
Because we struggled with that. And that's why one of our businesses didn't work out well, because we wanted our weekends.
Right.
That's right.
But we had full-time jobs at the time, you see. So we weren't that quite committed.
No.
This one we had to commit. Anyway, Josh, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to. I know we can kind of get off on a tangent here talking, but I think it's important stuff, and I think it's valuable stuff, and I really feel these are things I wish I could have listened to earlier on. Listen to other people kind of dealing with this.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you again, Chiasson Smoke, for your sponsorship. We really appreciate that every week. You're able to put this on for us. That's all I have. We'll see y'all next week.